This shot is called Remembering the Enormous Field, the fence, and we are on the inside looking out, moving left. It takes all day. The move is too smooth. Maybe we are dreaming. Move along the edge, contained, caged, nostalgic. We are remembering. A fence is like a mirror. It depresses the cows. It makes us remember. Looking out, look up and down, looking for something interesting. Now turn left, still on the inside, still looking for something interesting. Now turn left, fence is still there. Keep looking for something interesting. Now turn left again, still looking. We are looking for food. Time to go. Friendly shoe, friendly soul. It's different being old alone and being old together. For instance, when you're old alone, it's hard to remember that you're old or that you're alone.
Remembering is a problem.
Each and every thought has a future, but the past is always slipping away. Remove but with. He thinks of himself as taking part in the dawn of civilization. So much is expected of him. For instance, he thinks verbatim, our work with our bodies is to move rocks. Our work with our minds is to dignify eating. Museums are a good example. In her, what can be seen clearly, like a slogan she wonders, for instance, whether it's her way to make a new thing or to rearrange the whole things. She's fond of truth. That's
always a problem.
Every other weekend, they take rooms adjoining. They regret the rooms. They want something more, but how to find it? Remove but. Style is important after all. Say what you will about it, for instance. Who wants to return disembodied, stuck in the library?
We do.
That's part of the problem. But style is right up there. For instance, they are more dissimilar now than when they met. In the old days, they were lookalikes. It added something. Now, they turn to differences to talk about. That's a danger to society, I would say. Then I'd say something like, what the heck? And finally, I'd just be indifferent. Remove the but in, but the style is right up there. Remove the and in, and finally, I'd just be indifferent. That should clear it up. Welcome home, dressed in red, told and told. He gets attached to ideas. A certain arrangement of words, like a certain arrangement of the furniture, can be good enough to suggest happiness in a way. She is more likely to be attached to the furniture itself. When they lie in bed, he is longer than she, but when they stand, he's not taller. Remove but. More than she, something the poet says we see him to avoid too many times. Together they regret more than anything, more than the rooms we have mentioned, more than the chances they missed individually, their own embarrassment at the pauses they catch themselves in, falling apart together. Not one should judge herself, himself, whatever. Seems cruel.
Let's say it is cruel.
Maybe regret is not the word. Maybe resent is the word. They, the pair of them, resent someone who doesn't recognize. But they are being cruel to themselves and insist upon it. At the moment, the person they have in mind is the supermarket manager. More than anyone, they notice, he counts up cruelty among the oldsters to keep things in order. There's something about the honor system and the mirrors and the spies and the finality of the checkout that keeps the oldsters subjugated definitely. Cruelty to oneself is a hard flaw to confide.
I'm cruel to myself.
Is it possible to tell from looking in the mirror that you are, for instance, stupid?
Food raid's on the rise.
Supermarket managers counted on the emergency. Do they think it grows on trees? If this keeps up,
etc., etc.
Compared to cattle in India by well-known scientist himself, one recalls pre-war problems with food supply. Now they are everywhere, International Congress told. The old one, grazing, at ease, proper fold, extra teeth in a bowl. They would like to marry. They think of it politically.
What a word.
Why marry? Neither of them has an estate to speak of. He owns 4 pairs of socks, 2 of which he wears in confusion. All 4 of these 2 pair are in the gray range. There is another pair of a lighter color that he dislikes. Finally, there is a pair in black for special times that he's wearing now, to go into shoes and pants, to say nothing of shirts and coats. It's just more of the same, and she's no better off. A little more defiant, maybe.
It's not clear at all.
Why do they keep on facing backwards, looking at the state? The state has made him stop short in mid-sentence. Think it over. The state has given him the embarrassment. Pauses are provided by the state, not exactly gratis. It could be different, she thinks. There could be, for him, for instance, robes of honor, robes of our tribe, priceless things outside the mind. Not emblems, real things, from father to son, from father to son. If this is sunset, the sky could be on fire. It could be ceremonial. Instead, it's gray and he's stuck again, paused, facing the choice of succotash, thinking it over. Those are her thoughts. His are different, naturally, either because the socks are his, not hers, or because of the succotash and how close he is to it, or because of her failing eyesight, or because of God.
Who knows who gives a shit?
And to top it all off, that was 10 minutes ago. She backed into the suit and he thought about the succotash. Now there in the canned fish and also the cat.
charges of fraud and murder died today in a Chicago hospital. Cyanide poison. Her mysterious death. Removed from the scene of person who wasn't at the center of many of Illinois' financial and political scandals. That served as an unofficial financial advisor to the state university, which lost millions of dollars in its trusted dealings with Illinois politicians and informed journalists were unanimously believing that his could hold formation could prove embarrassing to many influential Illinoisans. His owner was quoted as saying just before she was found dead.
When I entered therapy, it was a kind of never land of exploration.
I'll go see what they say.
I'll see what they say.
What I can do about it.
First off, she, the doctor,
Elderly woman
Hunched over,
with a thick New York accent.
welcomed
In her
me
Southern California home.
with the rotting lemons falling like dead mice from the tree out front.
and quickly proceeded to the predetermined Rorschach test.
Oh,
Being new at psychology,
dead set on making.
A good impression.
I worked like a dog
Every image that came up.
to make sure I said something interesting,
Artistic. Insight.
so she might not perceive the ordinariness within.
Oh,
At the end of the test, I discovered that I was discovered.
you said this looked like
Back to back.
boogie dancer. Isn't it real?
The face of your
Angry and abusive father.
As a newcomer to the game, I gave in.
Said yes.
I can't really remember.
I do recall before
I wrote a letter to my family telling them
all the ways in which
Oh, my memory.
that possibly they could have been the reason for all my problems.
insecurities
Doubt.
and failure.
And then the therapist discovered that I had dearly loved my father who had died,
Rather
At a
tragic.
young
A
age.
short time before.
and that I was in the process of mourning him quickly.
Because I was
The
fixated
loss.
in the love.
It was suggested
By the way,
Hypnosis is a big deal.
these
that for
situations,
me to love him
And miss anyone that much.
especially your father,
must mean
must be
I had been sexually abused.
throughout your life.
You were just having a hard time remembering.
And I can help you for a fee, of course.
Soon I was reading those tracts
Abuse
Women of suffering
and wondering why
as a help.
and sane human being.
I could
Call
not
any incident.
project this onto my familial situation. Sexually abused? Gosh, hard as I try.
Never mind.
Gosh, and a husband who's all work and no play, left a lot to be desired.
We know the story.
So I sought help, and
Never mind.
can you imagine?
You know the story.
She said the answer lay in
We
medication.
know the story.
Medication.
Never mind.
I Anyway, soon the therapist, who insisted on chain smoking,
And if you had a problem, you need more session to work it out.
was dead from lung cancer, and I was
In a
out,
cold, cruel world, undiagnosed.
left with only a few lame cassette tapes.
Suggest a move toward the light. With every gentle sweep of this glowing light,
Move toward your
place
center.
of calm, free from the world of concern. Just follow my light.
To your center.
You're doing well.
Follow my light. With the center of your eye,
The center of your
the
mind.
center of your spirit, very night.
You're doing well.
And we are moving
Ever closer to
And how
it.
about
center of
this?
our being. Center of our
You are
soul.
moving closer to the source of all heat and light, and there's only one thing to do: move toward the light, fresh light. Fresh air toward the light, the window open, welcome you. Place yourself upon the window ledge, lean out into the light, feel how real it's, how fresh, how friendly and welcoming it is.
Without intention,
Fresh light,
without restraint,
fresh air,
without
etc.
resistance.
You could imagine from there what the next suggestion
Closer to
might
the center
be.
to a belief
No
so
wonder
peace
people
and
jump out of buildings all the
You're
time.
doing well,
Oh, goodness, that was a long time ago.
and you are safe.
I have made you
What
safe
about
from
the
all very
infamous
things.
alcohol?
For keeping you
Yes,
so safe.
I was
safe in your
interested in
This
the
is the best thing to
fun on that fated day,
I have made you
and
safe.
At the
yes,
center of
I
your
did
center.
slip behind the wheel and attempt to attend one
Great
more
sums of
mandatory child
You are
event.
standing at the top of
What happened after the arrest?
Of
The
a
sensual
gloriously
abuse
beautiful
by the arresting officer, the humiliation of the whole ordeal, and the initiation into the underworld of prostitutes, husband beaters, and petty thieves in a bizarre kind of bonding session that evening. I was quickly connected by a mobile phone to a new therapist who, in the wake of my shock and shame, suggested that, of course, I needed help, and would I come to her post-haste, at which point we would redesign my mind and my life.
beautiful than you have ever seen.
So within an hour, without my say-so whatsoever,
Toward the
I was placed in a treatment program.
Beauty.
The party on the other end of the helpline empathized, and when I sighed, said, "Why are you crying?"
You're doing well.
I sighed again, and she said, "You most certainly need help. And by the way, if you don't go through with the therapy, as I am a representative of your healthcare program, you should know that we will cancel your coverage immediately. Oh, thank you, and have a nice day, honey." And then I entered a urine testing room full of dropouts, deadbeats, drug addicts, etc., and hated every minute of it and checked out midway. Isn't that a surprise? And it just goes on and on. Betrayal, coercion, therapy as punishment, the family divided against itself, all ethically reprehensible behavior, and the patient possibly will be open to self-incrimination. Do you pay by check or credit card? It's a double-edged sword, at best, meaningless, at worst, right, which is really scary. I mean really scary. Oh, goodness, that was a long time ago. I wonder if they still do it that way.
The river deepens when it gets down to the sea. The river deepens.
Check, check. Hey, you're listening to Roulette at the Lot. This is Anea Lockwood sound map of the Hudson River, a piece of music that was shared with us by Mimi Johnson of Lovely Music, a piece of music that Robert Ashley loved. We're here playing all music by Robert Ashley for the next hour and a half. At Roulette, we are in partnership with Performing Arts Services, holding a screening of Robert Ashley's Perfect Lives on June 9th. Get your tickets. Here we go with more. We're going to listen to Empire from At Atlanta, The Acts of God.
Tomato soup is just flavored water, of course. It was invented 50 or 60 years ago. Before then, there was no tomato soup. Tomatoes were something to be afraid of. The seed pods are huge and fleshy. Some relatives of the tomato will kill you on sight. Others are not quite so dangerous. But the whole family is known to be bad. It grows like a weed. Something that can be eaten, maybe, if you don't have anything else. The question is what to do with it. To fill up your stomach and still not die. The most successful treatment was to pickle it. I don't know the chemistry, but it worked. So first, there was tomato ketchup. The ketchup had two advantages. It had a sour taste that grown-ups like, and it had a sweet taste that children like. Otherwise, children will not eat tomatoes. Also, it did something to your mind. Tomato ketchup has always been important to remind us of the differences between children and adults. Tomato ketchup could be made more popular by adding water and by adding sugar. So finally it began to be sold. Tomato ketchup was the first fast food. Curiously now, it is given away, as long as you buy something to put it on. If a restaurant charged you for ketchup, you would never go back. So ketchup got to be more like liquid. People resent chunks of something in ketchup. Also, ketchup cools off the meat. If a restaurant served you hot ketchup, you would never go back. At a certain time, there were many people who had no money. This story is almost entirely secondhand, except for the part about the 24-hour breakfast. It was expected of an extra man to leave home. Women were allowed to stay home. One man stayed, usually a father. He might work at the factory. All of the extra men had to leave. They were expected to find their fortunes. Usually, they left on the train. They rode in boxcars that otherwise were empty. They had to get off at every stop because of the railroad dicks. So it took a long time to go anywhere. Every extra man had a destination. That they were aimless is out of the question. The codes of chivalry were in use then,
Poverty and godliness were somehow connected, and travel was part of the bargain. The plan of the connections is lost to us now. We have put aside a line of sight. We have forgiven the railroads, mastered the tomato and most of its relatives. Poverty and godliness are no longer connected. Things seem secure for us now because we built them, and they obstruct our vision. Before all this happened, there were many more vistas, and there were many destinations, each one precisely on the horizon and extended in the mind by the railroad. Those were adventurous times. We remember them in the Extra Man. All extra men rode on the railroads. Every day, except for Saturday and Sunday, I got to my grandmother's house about 9. My mother worked at the bank. That was a source of great pride for her. She admired the bank president, and probably he admired her too. My father worked at the post office. At that time, no women worked in that post office. That was one of the unbalances in my family. The other was the problem of the extra man. I was the extra man in our family. So I trained with my uncle, who was the extra man in my grandmother's family. I began at about 3 years old. I went to my grandmother's house about 9. She gave me $1 to go to the grocery store. The grocer put 6 bottles of beer in a bag. I put the change in my pocket. I went back to my grandmother's house, and we started drinking beer. My grandmother drank slowly, always taking the bottle with her from one room to the next. I forget what she did in each room. Winters are not so much fun. The extra man feels confined in winter. You get tired of listening to the radio. And snow gets very boring. When spring comes, the extra man goes on the road. My grandmother's house was a well-known stop, about 2 hours north of Toledo. So late morning and early summer was most important. I got to meet the extra man. Each would come alone by some agreement, I suppose. Never two came at once. The extra man is essentially singular. There would be a soft knock on the back door. The extra man never came to the front door. If he did, it was untrustworthy. Only salesmen came to the front door. In many families, the front door is not used. There were houses where the front door hardly opened. My grandmother would open the back door without fear. That seems like a strange thing to say now. The extra man would offer to help around the house, meaning in the yard or in the garage. My grandmother would say that that was not necessary. She would ask him to sit on the back steps and wait. Then she would close the door and cook. She made 2 eggs with bacon and fried potatoes, 2 cups of coffee and 2 pieces of toast. If there was a pie from the night before, which was always, my grandmother would add a piece of pie. Everything was on one plate except for the pie. The pie was on a separate plate. Rarely, but sometimes, The extra man did not eat pie. I don't know how this figures into the rules. It has always been a mystery to me. But I remember its importance clearly. The whole meal was delivered at once, unlike inside where the pie came afterwards. I was not allowed to watch the extra man eat. I had to stay inside, which I liked better anyway. The extra man ate outside, and we had another bottle of beer. I have to add that the beer was always warm, and to this day I distrust people who like cold beer. That was the morning visitation. After the extra man left, we rested. Then I would have a very thin slice of ham, which had been changed into a kind of rubber. It took about 1 hour to eat the thin slice of ham. The ham and the beer were an excellent combination. I don't remember much of the early afternoon. Probably I slept listening to the radio. At about 2:30, it would happen again. There would be a soft knock on the back door. My aunt came home from work at 3:30. I think the time is important. My grandmother would open the back door without fear. The extra man would offer to help around the house. My grandmother would say that that was not necessary. My grandmother didn't like aimless work, I think. She would ask him to sit on the back steps and wait. Then she would close the door and cook. She made 2 eggs with bacon and fried potatoes, 2 cups of coffee and 2 pieces of toast. The pie went on a separate plate. Every night, my aunt made a pie.
Who probably taught me everything I know. You. If you record you guys are all. And very I will do.
easy. It's easy. And it's fun. And it makes me happy. We are everyone. It's easy. Get a lonely one. A little money, time to spare. His wife is just not interested. She's been there. He still dreams of cooking, but there's nothing on the stove. He's still loyal and faithful, but he's all alone. The heart is like a flower. It needs a place to live. In the desert of his loneliness, he just needs someone to give. It's easy and it's free. Happens to you and me. It's a certain part of life that comes eventually. The skin is soft, the touch is gentle, the smile is half ashamed. The smile comes with surprise. Is this happening to me? I just touch him and I hug him and I kiss him and he's mine. Another conquest for me is easy, another bought a little time. It's easy, it's easy, it's easy, it's easy, it's easy, and it's fun, and it makes me happy. We are everyone. My friends all think it's strange. They speak psychology. I've stopped trying to explain what it means to me. I don't know where the idea came from, but it came so clear. Everybody needs somebody for the time they're here. I take one day off every week from the parties and the fun, and I give it to somebody that doesn't have anyone. It's like a kind of tithing, but with no points from up above. A little something one day a week. It's called the gift of love. The skin is soft, the touch is gentle, the smile is half ashamed. The smile comes with surprise. Is this happening to me? I just touch him and I hug him and I kiss him and he's mine. Another conquest for me is easy, another bought a little time. It's easy, it's easy, it's easy, it's easy, it's easy, and it's fun, and it makes me happy. We are everyone. I find them in the little bars or in the grocery store, wandering up and down the aisles. I don't think I need no more. Like ships adrift, Sargasso Sea, the sails are ripped and worn. The deck could use a paint job, but the crew is gone. The ancient mariners of love, rehearsing stories silently of when the sails were full, the journey fast into the westerly. God bless them, they're a part of us. They charted maps of seas unknown. They left treasures on the beach. Now they are all alone. The skin is soft, the touch is gentle, the smile is half ashamed. The smile comes with surprise. Is this happening to me? I just touch him and I hug him and I kiss him and he's mine. Another conquest for me is easy, another bought a little time. It's easy, it's easy, it's easy, it's easy, it's easy, and it's fun, and it makes me happy. We are everyone.
I read recently that a scientist says now that thinking and remembering are the same. It's just a matter of timing. We just thought they were different. Remembering, I guess, is supposed to be faster than thinking in a physiological sense. God, those guys are weird. Of course they're the same. Everybody knows that. Try it for yourself. But even if thinking and remembering have the same thing happening in your brain, they seem different. That's important. But that's not the point. What's interesting is, and I learned this from the article, the synapse, you know about synapses, is chemical. And I deduced this myself. Because the synapse is chemical, not electrical, not at the speed of light, there must be an ever so slight accumulated delay for every thought. And when you think about how many times that has to happen in a day, for instance, in the billions apparently, then the notion of the delay seems right. We would have evolved that way. The delay is between what has formed as a thought and is waiting in the wings, to use a phrase, to be played out in the mind, next, as it were, and whatever is actually thought, whatever it is that engages your mind totally, as in thinking while turning the double play at second base, choosing which soap to buy, choosing among words and how to order them. Whatever it is that engages your mind totally causes you simply not to exist self-consciously. a kind of hole in the time of who you are. The preformed thought is simply a cause next in order to do the active work of thinking. In other words, thinking, as we understand it, is never, ever in real time, to use a phrase. When you think that you are thinking, are aware of it, you are actually, I'm sorry, remembering. Maybe that's remembering with a different meaning, but there's no other word. A formulation often of unimagined origins, a plan, I call it that, to be enacted in the synapses as soon as possible. You are carrying out a thought. You could call it, the formulation, a cause of thinking. I mean, a cause of the activity of thinking, a cause in the sense that it's functional, that you got just a moment or so ago. But it's still just a formulation, remember? You could call it, whatever it is to be thought, a topology of sorts. In the what's up next notion of ideas. And every idea would have a topology. Imagine a kind of two-dimensional form, a kind of blanket or membrane that spreads across your brain or across parts of your brain for just a moment or two, waiting its turn to be the next thought. This, of course, is sort of disheartening. I mean, the idea that we are never, or at least rarely, thinking in real time. On the other hand, maybe the crack, whatever is happening in the crack, the seeming shadow falling across the brain, is truly thinking. And the rest is just remembering. I don't know. I live in that place, remembering, but I don't know. Some of you will understand what I'm talking about. You will understand when I say to stay away from remembering. It's painful, it hurts, somewhere in your mind or wherever things hurt. Stay away from remembering. Avoid remembering. I go to the other side of the street when I see it coming. The crack, if that's where you feel the difference between thinking and remembering, the crack might set us apart in some way. It might be what is called consciousness. And in another way, it could be a physiological explanation of déjà vu. Patterns imposed on the brain and retained as in storage. A physiological explanation of déjà vu.
I am ready, oh my children, when Jesus knocks at my door, I'll be there
come morning. Don't weep for me, I'll be with my Lord. There's my Bible on the table. Read it to me once more. I can hear God's heavenly angels singing me on through heaven's door. Hallelujah, Lord, I am ready. No more sorrow. Hallelujah, yes, I am ready. I am ready. I am ready to go. Oh, Hosanna, take my hand now. Lead me to the promised land now. I am ready. I am ready. Hallelujah, I am ready to go. Hosanna, I am ready to go. I can hear God's heavenly angels singing me on through heaven's door, singing me on through heaven's door, and I am ready.
He took himself seriously. Motel rooms had lost their punch for him. He opened all his bags. There were two, and inside those two there were two more. It's not an easy situation. But there was something like abandon in the air. There was something like the feeling of the idea of silk scarves in the air. There was a kind of madness to it, the kind we read about in magazines. One of the bags contained a bottle of liquor, a sure sign of thoughtfulness about who one might have been. He poured himself a small drink in the fluted plastic glass sans ice. He thought to himself, if I were from the big town, I would be calm and debonair. The big town doesn't send its riffraff out. He sat on the bed, both feet on the floor. He studied the ashtray and tried to rule out preference, preferring over not preferring. But he preferred gravity over what other state, preferring in that case earth, the earth as they say, preferring some state over non-state. Now he grips himself with determination, even knowing that it causes sadness. He is determined to be what? He is determined to be serious. He had determined once to be serious. Later he knew that he had made a mistake, but too late he had arrived, and there were rooms, and all rooms were not the same. Some better than others, he thought. A better view, a better layout, better shower, softer bed, not so far from noise, more like home, etc., etc., very abstract. He lifted the telephone from its cradle. His determination got stronger, if no clearer, even as he fainted in its force. Were it not for our momentum, the inertia of our actions, the constant inspiration of our habits, we could not continue. The will is almost nothing, he thought to himself. At the sound of the first ring, he hung up. He pushed down the button and listened to the silence of the object in his hand, and then he hung up. Very dramatic. The phone rang immediately. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He brings this cloud of conditions with him. He is at the center of a ball of hot stuff that we haven't put our minds to yet. And sitting on the bed in the motel room is no different. Somewhere in another room in range, somebody got it and phoned him. It happens all the time. Really. A kind of restlessness in that range. He sat and thought about obedience. He had resolved that of the two kinds, the kind that takes every message of order, rule, law as error, that everybody who passes along these messages, that loathes the buildings, that contradicts the inner voice, that resists, in short, was his, and that the other kind, how could it be? He was unhappy with the world. He worked with the forwardness and the backwardness. He worked with what things are ahead of us and with what things are behind us. I guess the other kind would be to work with things that are alongside, the attachments. Obedience was impossible for him. At the same time, he was cooperative and indeed solicitous. No one in the world would have mistaken him for a real person. Obedience, etc. The other kind works with the things that are of the alongside us, the attachments. At the same time, he was cooperative. The numbers on the telephone, the parts of the book, the notes of the scale, they are the same, are they not? They come from the sameness of the idea of the outsideness, not the alongside the outsideness, the differentness. It was a problem, being cooperative and at the same time refusing obedience and carrying the load of the idea of differentness. He wants. He handles himself in the morning. It's just like for every other man. The fantasy is the distance, the reluctance, the reticence, the otherness. The fantasy is the uncleanness. So getting up gets to be a problem for a sensitive person like him. The problem is to run that gauntlet again. Remove problem. Remove gauntlet. Remove run. Remove is to. Remove the. Remove that. Leave this. Make this whatever. He lights the motel room with a slightly blue body light. When he is alone, he forgets sometimes to walk. He just moves. Sometimes they touch, sometimes they don't, and everything in between. As sometimes he forgets to combine talk with thinking, and just thinks, or just talks. Especially, I think, it happens in those rooms. Who knows why? The way it disconnects from what's just outside is predictable, is it not so? It never stops being a mystery. We have talked about it. When he says hello, you hear a long whining sound, which is his voice and the hello. It is as different from whatever, the way one might remember, as a sound a cat would make. He is not unusual in this, I think. He is absolutely uninhabitable. A thankless star. Remove star. Remove thankless. Remove a. Replace with. He has a special way of speaking, but it seems only to make him more like other men. This is one place, and here every kid is armed. So where you going? Hunting. Only sometimes we don't see the guns. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. The down involves references to down low. Down from Des Moines, up from somewhere. Missed by chance. Didn't even see him. Thought it was an
Illinois companies she then controlled. In the was charged with diverting funds she Illinois 2 banks she owned. Abroad it is the amount involved in those transactions went as high as $200 million.
Expertise as a lawyer, and to come to holes that inner hating were estimated to total as much as $455 million worth scattered about a maze of except for industries. She was living a life of in Chicago. There's all fine children. Promise was so esteemed that at the recommendation most of the prominent academic lane P6 sought her advice on university accountants investments and leading politicians. Gave her easy access to government service in the later she would say politicians were the architects of her treasure trove to her tireless defense of free enterprise. I saw with my own eyes on TV Mr. Ozzie Smith, Wizard of Oz. His last bat in the All-Star game. When he came on the field, he always did a flip. The way he did things was a legend. He said the night before, "This is the last one." 50,000 fans were screaming. Both teams from both sides were on the field. Hats and gloves and everything were flying in the air. Thousands of ball players everywhere were in tears. The TV zoomed in, of course. He stood there at the plate and tipped his hat. Umpires walked away. You can't stop this. He tipped his hat again 2 or 3 times. Then he just stood there crying. 10 minutes out of baseball.
Finally, she starts seeing Mr. George Payne, an Italian man who tap dances. Mr. Payne and Linda speaking.
No, George, there's your mother, my mother, and birth control. These are 3 reasons why we should not get married.
I have called the policy. It is better than the car of your brother-in-law. It is better than the car of your brother who assures us that he is not interested in driving. It is better than the car of your brother who wants to us at the time being all things in his marriage to the property of his wife in order that the brother's future is secure. It is better than the car of your brother who runs around with the daughter of a sofa-stuffing family. Amazing as she is, it is better than the car most people will ever ride in.
Another reason, George, is your background, or my background. We seem to see things so differently.
My family's Payne, and though I'm sure they may change the Korean grant because that's the way the officer saw it, still words would be explicit for the South, not the meaning. And so I live in Payne to make a silly joke. I am, as it were, inside of Payne, and from that perspective I ask you to reconsider to remember that my origin suggests a certain skill in providing, as in to provide, and the person would not be named granted having the characteristic ability to provide.
Another reason, George, is your name. There are customs in my family about how men should be named. George is practically unheard of. They would never get it straight. Do you know what I mean?
As you know, all tap dancers named George. It means light-hearted tap dancing when your faces rehearses is the word they use, but they are all trapped in the first stage or first test of memory. How many syllables and for how long? Immediately 10 minutes later, at the end of the day forever. No, the figure of memory or the dance of memory, as we say, meaning the same thing is in the positioning of the information. The dance of memory is just that, and usually the rehearsal of that dance to be followed.
You made a point or two that I could bear to hear again.
In tap dancing, one we faces, that's why we are so often seen looking down. The observer thinks that we are looking down in order to keep things right for the observer to prevent error. The observer has never seen what the dancer sees looking down, or the observer wouldn't think that the world moves on the air of music. There's nothing like it. It's the only thing we had before automobiles as 4-dimensional.
Sitting here, thinking about life in all its forms, it's one of those days so far where nothing fits. Breakfast at the Holiday Inn Hotel, where I live ordinarily, especially where I live in other places. I look forward to breakfast. 6 cups of tea plain, 3 pieces of toasted bread, margarine and honey, and time to think about myself, the coordination of body and mind that I can do in a simple form. I don't take the tea to the table. I pour myself a cup of tea in one place and carry the cup to the table where I sit to drink it. Then I go back for another cup and so forth. 6 trips, more or less. 6 cups of tea and 3 pieces of toast. I like the getting up and down part. It's a kind of exercise of something or other. 1, freedom of choice. 2, freedom of movement. I've been in too many places in my life where it was all at the table and imposed a kind of discipline on me, especially that in the morning I don't like. It's too social, or whatever that word is. Let's call this little song tap dancing in the sand. Yesterday, because of the social pressure I always feel when I don't eat breakfast alone, I ordered breakfast in my room. That was nice. Looking out through the glass doors over the little balcony into the river with all the barges going back and forth and all the buildings across the river where the people live. I thought to myself, what's in the barges? This is the kind of question I think about at breakfast. According to Cicero, whoever he is, only people with a powerful memory know what they intend to say and for how long they are going to speak and in what style and what points they have already answered and what still remains. And they can remember too, from other cases, many arguments which they have previously advanced and many which they have heard from some other people, unquote. We are in the presence of amazing powers of memory. Let's call this one the last 1,000 hours, or almost 6 weeks. The movement by man, photographer of contrasts, or research in the colonization of German music by the African spirit. 1, the history. 2, the casualties. I think of myself very much as an organization man. It's all inside me, if you know what that might mean. I believe there are either 5 kinds of character or 7 kinds of character. One is the organization man. Another might be called the interpreter. Another might be called the helpful woman. Another might be called the woman of the different voice or different way of speaking, and so on. Each of these characters has its equivalent, I suppose, in the world of unshared knowledge. Now, the question of whether we mold our characters to satisfy that requirement is a question I couldn't possibly answer here. It could be answered, and I could answer it, but not here. It's enough to point out the importance of those equivalencies, assuming that the fact has crossed every person's mind if only as an answer to why movies, and to remind us that this movie, no less than any other, depends on the notion of the archetype or its believability. We are not interested in skin as such, or hair as such, or bone structure as such. We are not interested in those lessons. We can hardly bring ourselves to look into the mirror in the morning. It is a truth that to reconstruct our image of ourselves individually each day, to return from dreams, is difficult. So It is not an interest in skin and hair or bone structure that brings us to this movie. So what brings us to this movie? Not innocence or ignorance. I know there is not one person in this audience who would claim to be surprised. So innocence or ignorance is out. So what brings us to this movie? A commission from Fandango di Spagnuolo. Look at that shit. How nice. Quote, in the earthly copies of justice and temperance and other ideas which are precious to souls, there is no light, but only a few approaching the images through the darkening organs of sense. Behold in them the nature of that which they imitate, unquote. I don't understand that. In the earthly copies of justice and temperance and other ideas which are precious to souls, there is no light, but only a few approaching the images through the darkling organs of sense. Behold in them the nature of that which they imitate. I don't understand that. Anyway, later, from skepsis, says Strabo, came Metrodorus, or Metrodomus, a man who changed from his pursuit of philosophy to political life and taught.
perfect system ever given. She makes it work. She stands there in the doorway of her mother's house, looking at the grass and sky and at where they meet, never once thinking thoughts like, it's so like a line, or the difference is so powerful, or which way shall I take to lead? My mind turns to my breath, one. My mind watches my breath, two. My mind turns and watches my breath, three. My mind turns and faces my breath, four. My mind faces my breath, five. My mind studies my breath, six. My mind sees every aspect of the beauty of my breath, seven. My mind watches my breath, soothing itself, eight. My mind sees every part of my breath, nine. My breath is not indifferent to itself, 10. She never thinks of possibility or of how probable it is that they have come together. Those thoughts never enter her mind, nor do thoughts of sports. She has no desire to improve her muscles. For her, piano playing is the only mystery. It's so beautiful, and how they do it, no one knows. She gets catalogs of every sort in the mail. Everything imaginable is pictured. She finds her way among the pictures without hesitation. Happiness is just around the corner. She is entirely without shame. The numbers are made of rubber or something like that. They stretch. They never lose their shape. They are ageless. They don't need repair. They need attention and respect. She thinks about two things that I know of. One is elevation, and that comes clothed in light, so to speak. She loathes the dark. She sleeps in light. She likes highness. 4,128 feet here. 4,218 feet there. And the body of the house itself, $14.28 here. $48.12 there. The other is proportion. Coincidence isn't a mystery to her. The margin is always wide enough. 42 or 40 with 20 is always 62 or 60. And I mean 42 with 20 can be 60 as well as 62. And the other way around. Just as 10 and 20 can be 32 or 30, or 12 and 20 can be 30. She stands there in the doorway of her mother's house and thinks these thoughts. $14.28 is more attractive than $14 because of 28. No one likes or dislikes or different. And that 42 or 40 is fixed in some way.
16. 17. 18.
You have been listening to Roulette at the Lot. I'm Matt Mehlan, Associate Artistic Director at Roulette. We have been playing all Robert Ashley and songs that inspired Robert Ashley ahead of a screening of his landmark opera for television, Perfect Lives, happening on June 9th at Roulette. Get your tickets at roulette.org. Right now you're listening to a section of that piece, Perfect Lives. This is the backyard.
Thinks about her father's
We
age.
have about 7 minutes left.
does the
and
calculations
We're going to
one more
squeeze in a
time.
few more
She
Robert Ashley
remembers
hits.
62.
Thanks for tuning in.
Some number is 62. And that number with 10 is 42. She remembers 42. Remembers is the wrong word. She dwells on 42. She turns and faces it. She watches. She studies it. It is the key. The mystery of the balances is there.
8,
The Masonic secret lies there. The church forbids its angels entry there. The gypsies camp there. Blood is exchanged there. Mothers weep there. It is night there. 30 and some number is 62. And that number with 10 is 42. That number translates now to then. That number is the answer in the way that numbers answer. That simple notion, coincidence among coincidences, is all one needs to know. My mind turns to my breath. My mind watches my breath. My mind turns and watches my breath. My mind turns and faces my breath. My mind faces my breath. My mind studies my breath. My mind sees every aspect of the beauty of my breath. My mind watches my breath soothing itself. My mind sees every part of my breath. My breath is not indifferent to itself. She waked at 10. She remembers 10. She left the dark at 10. She waked in light. So 42 or 40 or 44 is fixed. $14.28 is more attractive than $14. It's just that.
She asked me to write a love letter, something she could hide in a shoebox in the drawer. No names, no promises, just something she can look at to remind her what the day is for. Lonely lady, middle of the afternoon. Lonely lady, come in feeling blue. Love letter on a paper napkin folded, addressed to you, lonely lady. How precious you are, I mean to me. How priceless you are, will always be. How special you are, no one can see. But
I'll keep it a secret. I'll keep it a secret. I'll keep it a secret. Sincerely.
we're just friends. We usually meet at the bar. I always say, honey, tell me who you are. The kids are all grown up, and the man's always away, and everything is coming down around her day by day. Lonely lady, middle of the afternoon. Lonely lady, come in feeling blue. Love letter on a paper napkin folded, addressed to you, lonely lady. How precious you are, I mean to me. How priceless you are, will always be. How special you are, no one can see. But I'll keep it a secret. I'll keep it a secret. I'll keep it a secret. Sincerely.